This was the bombshell polling that just a little bit of inside knowledge. I had tweeted it out, and Alex Armstrong messaged me saying, I can't find this poll anywhere. And I said, actually, Alex, I think you'll find it was emailed to me. He thought I had tweeted out a fake poll. I was making it up. But anyway.
No, I tell you what it was. No. Just to clarify, Darren, I actually saw a notification from GB News and screenshot it. I was like, where is this poll data? I can't find the data because it looked like it might have been. I didn't want to tweet about a poll that was old or maybe that GB News
it was
got wrong.
It was just so fresh. It was just so fresh that GB News got there first. Right. So anyway, this bombshell poll that was put together by the Electoral Calculus predicts that the Tories are going to be pushed into third place behind the Liberal Democrats as the official opposition. And the survey of almost 20,000 people, so this is a big poll, you know, polls are normally much smaller than that, a smaller subset. And it suggests that 20 cabinet ministers, Conservative cabinet ministers, could lose their seats, including the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. The event would be bigger than Tony Blair's historic win in 1997. It would be an unprecedented majority of 250 seats. This is where you can see here. So the reform seats that would be won, Washington, I didn't know this actually, Washington and Gateshead South, not too far away from me, would apparently vote reform. That would be incredible if that did happen, by the way. Skipton and Ripon would vote reform. Burton and... well, actually, I don't know if viewers can tell us if they're in any of these seats, by the way, but Burton apparently
please
vote reform. Cannock Chase vote and reform. Ashfield, which is, of course, Lee Anderson's seat, vote and reform. Luther and Horncastle vote and reform. Boston and Skegness, is that where Richard is standing?
That's Richard Tice's seat.
Against that horrible wet Tory, Matt Wallman. Huntington Dun is voting reform. Broadland and Fakenham, Great Yarmouth reform. Is that Great Yarmouth? Is where? No, that's Wellington, isn't it? Where Ben Habib is standing.
I believe so.
Where's that then? Orpington. I don't even. Oh, Fareham. They're saying that Suella Braverman's seat's going to vote reform. Gosh.
Oh wow.
Interesting.
That would be horrible, actually.
I see. This is where there's that discrepancy, isn't it? Because I think where you've got a strong right-wing Brexiteer, but also somebody whose message, she basically is reform in all but name. She has more reform about her than anyone else in the Conservative Party. Those MPs, I think, where those seats are, may hold on, but we'll see. We'll see.
Where is Ben Habib's seat? I can't find that anywhere on here.
Let me just double check. I'll double check.
But it's Wellingborough, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it is. But
I think it is. Yeah.
So it's not coming up to me. And I'm going to be honest. My geography of my own country is clearly so appalling that I can't think where to find it on this map.
He's standing in Wellingborough.
Yeah. So anyway, it's Wellingborough's not one of the seats that it says is going. Unfortunately, that it says is going to go. But it's saying Clacton. Obviously, Nigel's going to walk it in Clacton. And
I really hope that Rishi loses his seat and Lee Anderson keeps his, so that Lee Anderson can get his karma for Rishi kicking him out the Tory party. Like, it looks like Lee is lucky to have been kicked out the Tory party. But do you know what really made me angry is that Rishi Sunak, you know, the whip told Lee that he was kicked out. Rishi didn't even send him a text to say thanks for your work for the party. Hasn't said a word to him since, and I think that that's disgusting. You know, all you can do is just send a quick WhatsApp, just say thanks very much. But he didn't, so I think he could lose his seat. I don't give a damn. I really don't.
Well, I would like him not to lose his seat, and I'll tell you why. Not because of the kindness of mother's milk or something like that, but because actually I would like to see him have to resign from Parliament and accept that he's off to California and roll back on every single promise that he's ever made. He said he would stay in his seat if he wins and stay in for the next Parliament. He won't do that. We all know he won't do that. I would like to see him leave with his tail between his legs and go out in the disgrace that he is currently in.
I'd love to see him do some constituency work for the first time in his political career, frankly.
Well,
I mean, he must have spent just about half a parliament before he got he was brought in by Boris to be minister and chancellor.
Then eventually chancellor. But this got me thinking, right, about the why the Conservative Party are doing so bad. And whilst I'm sad about someone like Suella, if she were to lose her seat, I would genuinely be sad about that. She is a friend, and I think she's been on our side, and she is a great parliamentarian. But I cannot for the life of me understand why someone like this privileged, silly little pillock was ever in the Conservative and Unionist Party. But this is Rory Stewart, for those that don't know, and he was a government minister, and he was in the Foreign Office with Boris Johnson, if memory serves. And he now does a podcast with Alistair Campbell, who obviously we all dislike, who is a horrible hypocrite, who calls everyone else a liar, but not himself, because he, can't ever look himself in the mirror and accept that the dodgy dossier is responsible for countless, however many lives been lost in the most tragic of scenarios and wasteful of scenarios. But anyway, Rory Stewart, who famously says he walked across Afghanistan and all these other things, is our wise sage of the Conservative Party. And he says to the Guardian of all papers, he says, I guess my hand will float in the ballot box. I guess my hand will float over Labour, but will probably come down on the Lib Dems or the Greens. So the Greens, let's not forget, that have given succour and support to some of the most obnoxious elements in British politics and religious sectarianism that this country has ever known. And the Lib Dems who, basically, I'd have no idea what they stand for, but they might as well join the Labour Party because they agree with them on absolutely everything. And if they do become the leaders of the opposition, then there will be no opposition in this country, which is why I think it's so important, that point that Alex made on his Twitter account, on his X account, where you said, Alex, that the Tories would have to do a deal with Reform in order to form the official opposition. And I think that's a very important point indeed. And one that we cannot discount, and one that I've never seen anyone else talking about, actually. So this is the problem with the Conservative Party, that they have selected people who, in no sensible, rational definition of the word, can ever be deemed a Conservative. And this is the problem. And I'm so sick, and I don't think I will support the Conservatives for a long time to come, put it that way, when they have people like that and they select people like that, because they basically laugh at us in our faces and say to Conservative activists, up yours, we know what we're doing. We need nice little centrist sallies like Rory Stewart, who, I say centrist, he's not centrist, he's left-wing. He's a left-wing liberal. And this is the problem with the Conservative Party. But Alex, that point that you made, just flesh out the bones on your theory on them forming the opposition when it comes to
if you could just go to the seat numbers again, because this is the important bit, particularly with this poll. This poll is of 19,000 people, so it's a lot of people. And obviously no poll matters until election day, so this might not be representative, but it gives us an idea. But essentially, with the Conservatives in third place in this poll, you've got 60 seats. And the Lib Dems in second place on 71. That means the second largest party will be the official opposition. Now, Tories can't form that with those 60 seats. So who are the kingmakers of the opposition at that point? That's Reform. Reform give their 18 seats to the Tories. They have a deal. They maybe merge into the same party or form some sort of new party. And all of a sudden, they're on 78 seats. And that makes them the official government opposition. Now, that is... So look, the reality is, if the Tories are no longer the opposition party in the United Kingdom, if they are no longer that, then what are they? They are a political non-entity. They are a pressure group. They are, and what do they stand for? Nobody knows. You've got Rory Stewarts in the party who essentially are running it on the back end. So the reality is, in this scenario, they would have to do a deal with Reform if they want to save their face. But like you said, Darren, there's a lot of Tory wets in that party, and a lot of reformers, myself included, want to see them go. Yep, and I wouldn't ever go near the Conservative Party again unless those people went. and the CCHQ is wiped out. Now, I have one interesting little bit of information for you. I have spoken to a lot of senior Conservatives who are not, on the face of the party, they're not elected politicians. And there's going to be a lot of meetings scheduled. There's a lot of meetings scheduled directly after the election to decide what to do with the party. And I hear some of the options include completely wiping CCHQ and starting again. So let's see what happens. There's going to be a lot of interesting manoeuvring, but you're going to have Oliver Dowden, by the looks of it, as the Tory party opposition leader until September, when the party season begins.
I mean, that's about as exciting as a wet weekend. But Jane Ginger,
I think it will be quite a funeral, to be honest, rather than a party.
It will be.
On X, Jane Ginger says, "How does someone go from Tory to Green?" I mean, that's a good question, isn't it? It's by never being a Conservative, and the Conservative Party never understanding what it's meant to represent, Chloe.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to this, old theory of you win from the centre. So you've got to fill the party with a bunch of centrists. If you want a chance of winning the election, whoever is closest to the centre is going to win. But very clearly what is happening at this election is people have absolutely had enough of every party being exactly the same in the centre, where you can't tell the difference between a Tory MP and a Labour MP. So hence people are on the left. They may be reaching out to the Greens. Very clearly Rory Stewart is on the left, and on the right you've got people reaching out to Reform instead. So it's a really interesting thing that is going on here, and a lot of people feel very politically homeless. People have just had enough. So I think this old theory of win from the centre it's not going to exist anymore. No. Just going back to what Alex was saying about Reform and the Tories potentially making a pact, I think I would be surprised if that happens. Obviously, it is massively in the Conservatives' interests to do so, because that's the only way for them to survive. But I'm not sure it's in Reform's interest to do so. I mean, I think they've made quite clear that they don't want to do a deal with the Tories. And I think what would happen is if they make a deal with the Tories, they would tarnish Reform's brand as being someone who's separate from the mainstream parties. And also what would probably happen is Reform wouldn't get as much influence as they would like, and it would just seem like another Tory party.
Can I make a counter argument to that?
I was just going to say, Alex, that there's going to be absolutely no way that the Conservatives and the Reform Party could actually oppose anything that the Labour Party does. They're going to have such a big majority that that's completely irrelevant anyway. But continue.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I mean, it doesn't matter in Parliament as long as you have a majority. It doesn't matter the size. I'd actually rather Labour have a massive majority and wipe out more of the Tories and give us in Reform a better shot in 2029 than have a small majority and then an opposition party being able to hold them quite accountable, because I think that will do us better and Labour will start fighting amongst themselves. But my point on Reform is this. Yes, there is a massive movement at the moment, but look when the polls changed for us. It was when Nigel came back into the party. Now, the reality we have to accept at some point, unless we really are able to destroy the Conservative Party in the election, I might change my mind if we are, but the reality is that unless we can form an alliance with the Conservative Party and say, as part of this agreement, those wets are out and we're the Suella Braverman and the Nigel Farage party now, that is the only way, sustainably, we can bring back the right. We can unite the right wing of this country to win another general election. Otherwise, it will eventually collapse. I'm not saying Nigel Farage is old, but he hasn't got massive amount of time left on him in politics. And once he goes, I worry that Reform would collapse because... I know, but we're talking about 10 years for this plan, potentially.
Well, yeah, but Joe Biden's 80. Well, not that Joe Biden is the...
I don't condone it. Yeah,
it's the definition of competence.
I don't condone it. We do need some young people. I hope Nigel Farage understands that he needs to share the limelight. He needs to get some new talent up into the Reform Party and some younger talent, and to show that all those stupid establishment idiots online, that there are young people who are going to come out and bat for reform. We do need to flood the party with more people that are younger and show that this is a youthful movement as well as it is a sensible person's movement.
I've got a couple more topics that I want to get through, so we're going to have to rattle on a bit faster, but which is my fault because of the tech issues that we've had this stream. But apparently AD says that someone at the debate has just called both of them useless. There's a BBC debate going on right now, which is about as fun as, sitting on a piece of Lego. If someone asks if Farage loses Clacton, can he take someone else's seat? Well, no, not unless he would have to fight a by-election. So, no. Right, and...
well, if Rishi Sunak wins his seat and then Rishi Sunak resigns, then there would be a by-election, and Nigel could give it a go.
that would be absolutely brilliant, wouldn't it?
Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk, and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.